with that, I'll entertain whatever questions or.
One thing I wanted to point out, Tony, you'd mentioned they've moved 1.8 million cubic yards thus far, and the total is about 6.4 million cubic yards. So there's a lot of earth that is left to move.
Well, this current contract for them, they've moved 1.8. I think their current contract is 3.5. So roughly a little more than half.
Questions for Tony?
No. Good report.
No, thank you for the update.
Look at that. Appreciate it.
Well, one thing, you know, and a couple of things that I want to mention about the city of Pullman and the city of Moscow. This has been part of our infrastructure since 1939. That's when the original agreement was, years before I was ever born, thank goodness. But anyway, this has been an infrastructure project for both communities, and it affects both communities hugely, both universities, both towns, and the entire Palouse. And so, as you had stated correctly, Tony, we do not have a freeway system here. We do not have a waterway system here. We do not have a rail system here. So we've got to have some global means, and this is going to give the Palouse in our area, which is there's very global products that are being produced all the time here on the Palouse, and that will open it up for us more for in the future. It's a big deal for us. So. Good report.
That's amazing. It delivers opportunity, and I think the biggest thing to me, not being from the Palouse, I'm originally from Montana, it delivers on quality of life in such a way that very few projects actually do, because every other project, if it's a highways project or it's a waterway project or it's anything else that the federal government is involved in, it doesn't belong to you. And airports are different. It belongs to the community that has it, and the FAA participates, and they operate by the golden rule, i.e. they have the gold and they make the rules. But that's how the system's safe, and you know, aviation's got a perfect record. They've never left one up there, and they want to continue that perfect record and not have any incidents and bring them all down correctly, so they control it through the funding mechanism, and it's not a bad way to go.
Catherine?
I just remember the last time you were here, too, you talked about service to Boise, and then you also talked about a potential of other carriers.
Yeah, so opportunities. With the runway right now, Alaska flies a Q400 in here, 76 seats. So the airport was built for 19-seat aircraft. And then Alaska Horizon at the time, which is a subsidiary of Alaska, they get bigger airplanes, and airlines started to figure out as they started to go bankrupt that they needed larger seats and less frequency. You needed to use as much utility out of an airplane and get it bigger so you could save fuel costs. For an airline, the two largest costs they have are fuel and labor. And so that put us into the category, okay, well, we're going to go up to 38 or 36 seats, and now we're into 76 seats, and that necessitated a change in the runway, or you lose the air service. Well, now that you can land 76 seats and it's being sized, the 737 and the Q400, as far as the FAA is concerned, is the same size. They need the same separation distance, the same as a 737-800 and an A319 Airbus, A320 Airbus. And so that gives the community the opportunity, when the runway's done and now it meets standards, what would you like to have for service? Can we petition for Boise? Absolutely. Can we petition for Minneapolis? Can we petition for Denver or Salt Lake? And when you look at a community like Helena, Montana, which is about 100,000 employments, we're at 60, they're 100. They have service that goes to Seattle, Salt Lake, Minneapolis, and Denver. There is no reason that Pullman and Moscow could not have that same opportunity with the infrastructure. Just right now, chasing air service is very difficult when you don't meet the standards as it is.
Gina?
Tony, thank you, first of all, for the update and the videos. And I would like to encourage you to come back with more often.
As we go,
Please.
I'll keep bringing them.
Will you go back to your slide that showed each entity and how much went in? Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing WSU.
Okay, so reason for WSU is we're in the middle of the negotiation with WSU right now, so we're not counting WSU until the land negotiation's done. And between the time that this was started, you had a change in administration with the passing of Nelson Floyd, and now there's new administration. There was a gap in there where it was interim and a lot of those things were going on. We didn't know with land acquisition what the impacts were. A lot of the things we're doing with WSU right now is just education on our part. What is it that we are impacting and how does it actually work? And it takes experts and a lot of time to try to figure that out. But that's why you do not see them on there on the match at this point, is I don't have a number that would be placed there.
Okay.
I don't know
I
what it would
appreciate
be.
that.
Jim?
How many seats are on a 737, Tony?
Roughly 150, depending on how it's configured.
So almost twice as much as the Q400 then, or a little more than that.
One point of interest I wanted to mention, you had talked about 2 communities and 2 states and 2 universities, and I had a conversation with Anthony Fox, and for those that don't know who Anthony Fox is, he's the Secretary of Transportation of the United States, and he was on campus here 2 years ago, and I got a chance to visit with him about this airport realignment. And he was at one time a former mayor of Charlotte, and so it was kind of interesting. And he said, "Man," he said, "I don't know how you guys do it, but it's a good story for us in the United States because North Carolina and South Carolina, they hated each other. You know, it's amazing. People hate each other. You know, from one state to the next or one city to the next, kind of a goofy thing." And I said, "Well, you know, we're too small. We got to work together to get stuff done. I mean, that's part of our survival here on the Palouse." And I said, "That's why we call it the Palouse, because what happens affects all of us here, whether you're in Washington or whether you're in Idaho. So it's a big deal for all of us." But I thought that was kind of interesting comments, because Tony's absolutely right. When you talk to folks about it, they think you're not telling them the truth, or come on, you know, is this really working for you? I mean, it's amazing, and I've heard that back in Washington D.C. a number of times, and so it is a good thing we're working together to get this thing done.
That's always interesting when we go to meet with the congressional delegations in both, for both states, and you bring 2 mayors in, and one's their mayor and one's not, but they're saying the same thing. They listen, and they get it really fast, that this is extremely important to our region. And the congressional side of it has been a lot of fun, is keeping them involved and informed as we're going through. That it is a unique project and it does actually work. So it's something that regardless of whether you're on the Washington side or the Idaho side, or whether you're a D or an R, it's important to all of them, and that's been very encouraging.
Well, kind of a fun thing here, a few weeks ago, we had a legislative tour here in North Idaho where we had newly elected, as well as folks that had been elected and served a number of terms, state senators and state representatives from all over our state, and we took a bus ride from here, and we took Airport Road, and I was like a tour bus guide. I had the microphone, and I was explaining as soon as we turned off about the Palouse and agriculture and then the entire airport, and I talked nonstop until we got over the top of the culverts, and we're headed up by the golf course. But the big thing with that was telling our legislators that we've got an airport. It's one of 7 airports that the state of Idaho recognizes, even though it's in the state of Washington. It's kind of an interesting thing. So you have Brent Hill, who is the president of the state senate. You know, he was on that bus, and I got a good conversation with him, how it all worked and stuff. And so it's an amazing thing. So when we've got people all over the state, I mean, we got our representatives in our area that know all about it, but people from Blackfoot, Idaho, have no clue where Pocatello or Idaho Falls or Weiser or wherever you want to, wherever from. So it's kind of fun getting a chance to talk to those folks about it and how it all has worked for us and is working. So just wanted to throw that point in. Other questions for Tony? Thank you for the terrific report, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.